wiser feller than myself once said, sometimes you eat the turd sandwich, sometimes the turd sandwich, well, it eats you.
All right. So we're talking about watch later list on YouTube and everything.
Yeah.
And Teo was saying he prefers to just click and let it be in history.
Yeah, I've never used watch late. Like if I forget about it, if I forget to go back to my history to finish a video, then it probably wasn't worth it anyway. So
that's true. Yeah.
Like YouTube's not one of those things where I'm like, I missed the discourse on that video. No, it's like first, like if it's a video that I think is going to be important, I usually get it done in one sitting, which is weird because that's almost exclusively like a 4-hour, like one of H Bomber Guy's annual 4-hour long videos.
Yeah,
or something along those lines. But yeah, no, it's yeah, like if I like start a YouTube video and don't finish it and like it slips out of my mind so completely that I don't think to go back and finish it before it slips into the see all section of my history, then it's probably not worth the watch anyway.
Yeah, there's I like doing watch later, but never is it like it's something I saved a month ago and now I'm going back to it. Usually it's like I saved it, and then usually when I save it, it's like a couple days from now or the next day I'll watch it. I think the furthest it's gotten is like 2 weeks later I watched it. It's one of those things where if I don't get to it in a month, I'll just delete it from the watch later list. And that was something I was mentioning to Teo before we hit record, is my sister sometimes uses my same YouTube and she does a bunch of watch later stuff and she'll just let it pile up for like over a year. And it's very frustrating for me because I have to scroll to get to my watch later.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I did a mass purge. It's all good. I can get to my stuff a lot quicker now.
He took a diuretic, had a mass purge.
Yes.
All right, Brandon.
So
getting into some actual topics for today, just real quick. You've seen Deadpool and Wolverine already, right?
I have.
All right, so we'll do a full like review next week when it's too late. Once I've seen it, but just like, and we'll stop, like full stop after you give it, but give me a rating, and you can use whatever scale you want. It doesn't have to be numbers, but rate Deadpool and Wolverine for me.
Okay. I won't even do numbers because that gets even more detailed.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, yeah, it just, I don't know, it kind of does. I'd say it's good. It was a good time. It was a fun time. I had a fun time.
Alrighty. Yeah,
that's my review of it. Yeah.
I've seen some cameo spoilers, but no plot spoilers. So, yeah, though I have heard some people say that the cameos are kind of the plot, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I won't get into any of that. I'll wait till like you see it before, and not even like spoiling the cameos, but more in terms of the sentence you just said.
Yeah,
I'll hold off till next week to talk about that. But yeah, like before I saw it, like it took me over like nearly a week before I could see it because I was just so busy, like for over a week or two, to where like literally all of my free time. I talked about this with Austin from American Demon Comics. All of my free time, like for 2 weeks at least, was editing comics.
Ooh.
All of my free time. So basically, like I have work, like my day job, and then any and every bit of free time for almost 2 weeks was just editing comics. And the opening weekend for Deadpool fell into that.
Yeah.
To where it wasn't till like last Thursday night is when I saw it. So a week after it had released, but it was good. There were only 2 spoilers that I caught within that week. I tried staying away from the comic discourse or videos or different stuff like that on social media. There were
Yeah.
only two things that were spoiled, and they were just cameos. They were just
Yeah.
like cameos, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah.
Yeah, I've seen, like I said, I've only seen like some mild cameo spoilers. I don't know how significant any of them are, but so yeah, you know, I don't actually know what happens in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going this coming Sunday. Excuse me.
I'm surprised.
That's when I was able to organize going to see it with my friends.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're going as a group.
I'm surprised you have avoided as many spoilers and stuff online as you have.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I got done seeing the movie, I like went online, and I wasn't like searching it out.
Yeah.
But the cameo stuff just like flooded. Like either cameos or just stuff that appeared in the movie. Like basically after a week, everyone on social media was like, okay, it's okay to spoil it now.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like I'm aware that like pretty much the Deadpool core is in it. And I'm aware of like probably I without even realizing it, I'm probably aware of all of the like actors from non-MCU Marvel movies that are in it at this point. But yeah, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like the last Marvel movie that I genuinely really like cared about spoilers for going into it was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Right.
And that was like the first one in a long time that I cared about spoilers for. Post Endgame, I don't really care much about spoilers for Marvel movies. I know they're going to happen. I just, you know, for me, I see them and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, that would have been nice as a surprise, but whatever. And like, I go and I see it in the context of the movie anyway. So it's, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I still try to, even if I know what's going to happen, I still try to approach movies like meeting the movie on its level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people when they're spoiled on things, and this is one of those things where it's like, I try to be respectful of this. There's not a lot about internet discourse around movies that I respect, but I do respect people's desire not to be spoiled on things.
Right.
Because that is something where it might not ruin the experience for me with movies like it used to when I was younger, but I know there are a lot of people for whom it's still a big deal, and like it can genuinely damage their experience if they are spoiled ahead of time on certain things. Right. So I always that's why if I'm about to spoil something, I always try and catch myself and ask someone if they care.
Yeah.
And if they do, I stop.
Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine's the first time like I tried to steer clear of spoilers for a while. I mean, for at least a year or two. It's the first time for any movie I tried to steer clear of it, just because I knew like it's a cameo heavy, like before watching it, I knew it was like a cameo heavy driven movie sort of thing. So I wanted to have some surprise with at least some of those. But overall, yeah, good movie. We'll discuss further our thoughts on said movie next week after it's been out for a little bit. But I do want to hear from Teo a week from now to get his opinion on it, because I have an opinion. Yeah. And my opinion doesn't match up with everyone's, but I just want to see further with Teo, see his thoughts on it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I've been seeing actually a pretty even mix of people saying, basically people affirming, oh, it saved the MCU. And I've also seen people being like, that movie was ass. And I've also seen a good bit of people with a more level-headed opinion on the movie in the middle. So
yeah.
Like, this is the first time I've actually seen an even mix of like the full spectrum of opinions, where like the people who are saying it's the best thing since Betty White and the people who are saying it's the worst thing in the world are actually kind of being balanced out by the people who are saying like, actually, it was just kind of a movie.
Yeah.
Usually the more neutral people don't step in. Like, they're not as vocal. Because if you feel neutral on something, why would you talk about it?
Yeah, that's pretty true. I'm definitely not on either the this is really bad or this is amazing side of things. I'm more neutral. I'd say I'm a little higher than neutral. I think it was a fun time. But I won't say anything past that. But that what I will say is like after seeing it and then going to like online discourse about the movie and stuff, at least with comic nerds and stuff, I realized I am in the minority and not giving this a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
That's all I'll say with that. But amidst all this busyness that I've had, I also finally saw, not finally, it came out this past weekend. I saw Trap. I did see Trap.
Yeah, I listened to the Weekly Planet review of it.
Okay. Yeah, our version did not happen.
No,
I figured, but that would have been amazing had it did. It was a good time. Like I thought I had a good time. The last quarter of the movie was a little bit weak. It felt like it could have ended at any point, but it just kept going and kept going. It wasn't bad though. That wasn't like an awful thing.
And then Josh Hartnett reveals that he was pretending to be the engine the whole time, and he jumps out of the hood.
Yes, we will do that eventually in our own comic or movie or whatever. But yeah, no, I had like a great time the whole concert thing, like in the stadium, and then even after, like this isn't spoilers. Like eventually, it's not just concert. It's still good, but it's like I said, like there were many points where it felt like it was going to end, and then it's like up, and then this happens, and then he escapes, and then this whatever it may be. But overall, good time.
And the pop star in the movie, she's played by M. Night Shyamalan's other daughter, right?
Yes. When I first saw it, it bugged me a little more. Now I mostly don't care. When I first saw it, when I got out of the theater, I was like, I'm almost certain that's M. Night Shyamalan's other daughter. Because I'm not trying to be like an M. Night Shyamalan stalker or anything. But I knew that he had the daughter that made The Watchers. And I think because of The Watchers, that's how I found out about this daughter. Because I was doing research on the family with The Watchers and stuff.
Yeah.
But so he has the writer / director daughter, and then he has a pop star daughter.
A pop star / actor daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know this is like her first movie, right?
Yeah.
It's been a year of firsts for the Shyamalan family.
Yeah. Like I will say this. M, we're on a first name basis. M, that's his first name. He is trying to be supportive and encouraging of his kids. I really like that. I'm so on throwing them into the deep end like this stuff, these huge Hollywood like blockbusters that everyone will see. And the reason I say it's throwing them into the deep end is like it's essentially their first time doing this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yes, his daughter in this one, who's the pop star, like an actual pop star.
Yeah.
She is an actual pop star.
Yeah.
But this is her first acting role, really.
Yeah.
And she doesn't do it
directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Which already does weird things to perform.
I was about to say, yeah, like with the dialogue and with your performance, even if she was like a great actress or whatever, her dad directing her probably isn't the best idea if it's your first go around, first big Hollywood movie. Um, and yeah, like that's my one big criticism with it is I kind of feel bad for the daughters, not in the sense that like, hey, they're rich, they're good, but I feel bad in the sense that like people,
Yeah,
a
they're
lot of people will see them as like, oh, this is just like M. Night Shyamalan trying to throw his daughters in,
yeah,
and
they're
this
gonna
is
they're gonna see it as like shameless nepotism,
exactly,
and
exactly,
we talked about nepotism when The Watchers came out and how it's not really
right, right,
a bad thing in Hollywood. It doesn't really matter all that much.
yeah, yeah,
And one thing I will say though is they're kind of in the unfortunate situation where because of the Shyamalan name, no matter what they did, their first attempts at anything were going to be highly visible.
yeah, yeah.
So they're like,
That is true.
Now, okay, I will say the pop star daughter, if her first major role was in someone else's movie, someone other than an M. Night Shyamalan movie, she might have slid by like under the radar a little more and had more of like it would have been less visible probably because people wouldn't
Yeah,
have
yeah,
immediately realized like, oh, hey, that's one of M. Night Shyamalan's daughters.
right.
Now for the director daughter, I am so sorry that I cannot remember either of their first names, but for the director daughter, no matter what, because she was the one directing the film, no matter what, that was going to be like a highly visible, like, hey, it's Shyamalan's daughter and she's directing
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first movie. So like she didn't really get the benefit of hiding.
yeah. And, well,
At,
I will say like
or even the
also,
opportunity to hide at any point. Whereas with the pop star daughter, she's already now. This is my first time hearing about her, but she's already apparently made a name for herself musically. So there is that. But
right,
yeah,
right.
as far as like her first acting role, like had it not been her dad directing, she might have been able to like hide in the movie a little bit more. But unfortunately, it was her dad was her first director.
Yeah, and overall, as an actress, she did a fine job. I don't think it was bad. There's some people that are like, "Oh my gosh, her performance stands out so much." It really doesn't. It's just like I don't know. I think she did fine as like the background slash backdrop of most of this movie in terms of hey, they're at her concert and all. He's Josh Hartnett is trying to escape in the
Yeah.
midst of her singing and stuff like that. Like she was a good like backdrop slash background thing that's going on. Um, but yeah, once she started uh, getting in the mix as like a actual character, that's when it's so so. It's not bad, but it's not great or good. You could have either if you wanted your daughter to be in this, you probably could have done it to where like she's not really a character in the third act like you have it. Like still have her doing the concert and stuff. I think she did a good job and none of it seems like super noticeable or bad sort of thing. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, they're at like a basically a Taylor Swift type concert pretty much.
Yeah.
Um but once she gets roped into the plot, I think that's when it's so so. Um but yeah, and like one big criticism I've seen, which I will admit, this is a big thing. It doesn't bug me that much, but a big criticism I see is people saying this feels like M. Night Shyamalan just making his own like eras tour movie because of how much you see his daughter and her songs.
I was gonna say how like I know you and I said I know you said earlier that it wasn't our version of the movie, but how close
It,
was it to our version of the
in
movie?
terms of them like standing there and watching a concert, not as like not as hard into what we were talking about of like the whole movie is just them watching the concert and then they leave. It
Yeah.
wasn't as hard of just like an hour of a concert and they're just standing and dancing. You do follow Josh Hartnett a lot, but there are a decent bit of times where like he's just standing in the row with his daughter and we're just watching the song happen. And sometimes we'll see like his face, because the whole time he's not really paying attention to the concert. He's just looking around trying to figure out, okay, how the hell do I get out of this, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But there, even before that, before he's like super anxious and trying to get out of here, even before that, like he's like boogieing down a little bit in the row with his daughter while the concert is happening. And you hear almost like there's at least like there's at least one. I think there's at least 3 songs though that you hear almost the entirety of.
Oh.
And it almost is just like Josh Hartnett and his daughter just like getting down in the row to the song. It's interesting.
It'll be interesting to see what the sales of the movie soundtrack are like.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I think this definitely has to be a little bit part of it. The reviewers that say it is ultimately trying to show his daughter to more viewers to get them to go on Spotify and listen to her stuff, I'm not going to say is completely wrong. I think they are right. Critics saying that it kind of is one of those things of like, you've heard in this movie 15 to 20 minutes of her discography.
Yeah.
Like, so.
And that's a pretty like decent sample size for a musician's work.
Yeah. It's a good bit. There's one part.
It's enough music to decide whether or not you like them, like enough to just.
Yeah, there's one part. I know I'd mentioned before that I think there's at least 3 parts where you hear a song almost to its entirety. There's one that I know for certain you hear to its entirety. It's because Josh Hartnett this whole time is trying to figure out, okay, how the heck do I get out of here? The FBI have surrounded the place. They're like, any male that is like trying to leave the place or matches a description that a FBI profiler has, pull them aside and let's question them and search for tattoos and all this stuff. So he's trying to navigate around that, and part of it is like, oh, if we get backstage passes, then like we'll be able to go out the back door to where we won't really get searched or anything, like they're doing with everyone else. And this isn't really
but to see if I'm hiding any knives.
This isn't like really a spoiler. It's just trying to me get to the part that I'm really trying to focus on. He basically goes up to.
If you want to do a spoiler review, go ahead. Like I said, I already listened to the Weekly Planet review, so I know like the broad strokes of the movie.
Okay. Well, Josh Hartnett goes up to. He sees a guy kind of off stage towards the back. And he's like, okay, that must be like a manager or like someone she's related to. He goes up to the guy and is like, hey, like, me and my daughter, we love Lady Rose, like, or Lady Raven. That was her name. We love Lady Raven and just so grateful to be here. And he's like, my daughter, she just got over leukemia. Like, she just got over leukemia, and like, we don't really like to talk about it because she beat it. She wants to be done with it. But I just want to say thank you for having this concert, and this was an amazing time. He basically did that. He planted a little seed in the guy's head, in his head, because Josh Hartnett heard earlier that there's a song that Lady Raven does where she pulls someone from the crowd, and the girl gets to come up and like sing and dance with her, sort of thing. And so he planted that in the manager's head so that his daughter would get picked. His daughter gets picked. And now that I'm talking about this, I realize there's 2 songs we see to its entirety. We see the song where they're backstage and his daughter goes up on stage with Lady Raven and they're dancing and singing. We see that entire song. Then they got backstage passes, so the manager and stuff are like, hey, like, you guys can watch the concert from off to the side right here. Like, you get to see the stage right there and stuff. They're like, oh, this is so awesome. And we see an entire song. They're just standing off to the side, just kind of like boogieing down and stuff. We see Lady Raven singing and dancing her song. And we see serial killer Josh Hartnett and his daughter boogieing down to the side.
Serial killer Josh Hartnett.
Yes, actual serial killer Josh Hartnett. See them boogieing down. So there's at least 2 songs that you see to the entirety of in this movie. I think there's more. But yeah, I just mentioned that to say definitely a sampling of M. Night Shyamalan's daughter's songs. Because I think most of the songs are actual songs of hers. What I mean is like maybe they were made for this movie, but I think it's songs she already had, sort of thing.
Okay.
So I won't knock it really much for like, hey, here's my daughter. I'm trying to get more Spotify listens for her.
Look at her sing. Look at her dance.
Look at her sing. Look at her dance. Go to FYE. Buy her album. Do all that stuff.
And hey, while I'm in your good graces, maybe give The Last Airbender a second chance? No? Okay.
No.
That's pushing it. That's pushing
Too far.
All right. Too far. Pushing it too far. Sorry, I brought it up.
But yeah, it's overall, it's a fun time. It's an enjoyable time following serial killer Josh Hartnett. It's just a documentary of his life. It's good. He did a good job. I actually think he did a great job in this movie. Like he plays the dad role so well, but he also has like weird energy sometimes when he's talking to people. And I almost wouldn't entirely say it's like, oh, he's clearly a serial killer. I've heard some reviewers say like, oh, like he's giving off like weird serial killer vibes. No. I think it's more like when you're an adult and you're talking to other adults and you're trying to come off as an adult sort of thing. Like the fakeness of some of the things you'll talk about with other parents or whatever, that sort of thing.
About how you don't really care about what you're talking about, but like you have nothing in, like as far as you're aware, you have nothing in common with this random person, so you're just
exactly
chatting.
Yeah, the only thing we have in common is our daughters are friends, sort of thing, basically. Yeah. But
what I heard from the Weekly Planet guys, I know I keep bringing them up, but right now it's my only frame of reference for the movie. But I also kind of want to ask you about the accuracy of this. Okay, firstly, have you played any of the Hitman games?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. I have too. I just wanted to make sure. They said that this movie feels like probably the most accurate Hitman interpretation we'll ever see because it's just him in a location full of people who are significantly dumber than him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. Like it's essentially playing a Hitman level, like a Hitman video game level. Because like you said, spoilers for people. This isn't big spoilers, but I mean, yeah, he does little stuff here and there that are very much Hitman-like, that like draws attention away from an area so that he can get to a secure area or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he knocks a girl down a flight of stairs.
Oh, jeez.
All the cops and stuff, like he bumps into, like she's already kind of drunk, so he bumps into her and she falls down the stairs, and all the crowd and the cops focus in on her while he goes to like a security room and stuff like that, as well as like he's disguising and conversating with others, with security people, to get further access and to get badges and different, to get a police walkie-talkie so it can listen in on what all they're planning and doing. As well as like he causes like a mini fryer explosion in the concession stand.
So if there are any Jeff Bezos, we know you're listening, Jeff. But if there are any like executives of any kind out there listening to this podcast, we know you all listen. That if any of you want to try your hand at a Hitman movie again, That's the sort of thing we want. We don't want these big summer action blockbusters. That's not Hitman.
Yeah, we don't need.
We just
yes,
we don't even need the full narrative. We just need a Hitman level in movie form.
I was about to say, like, yes, Agent Smith and the Hitman games,
47.
47. Thank you. Yes, there's like a narrative and a story there between levels and stuff,
but no one cares about it.
No one really cares about that.
I'm the kind of guy who does care about stories in my video games, and I still don't care about the stories in Hitman games.
No, I remember like the first or second Hitman game I played, like listening to all of that, and it was okay. But from then on, any Hitman game I played, I just skipped through. If it was possible, I just skipped through all that and got to the level, got to me playing, because I didn't care about the story.
No, it's like it really does a good job of getting you in the mindset of an actual Hitman of like, I have a target. I genuinely do not care why I'm killing him. I just want you to pay me.
Yeah, just get straight to it. Yeah, I think you're spot on. Like, anyone that wants to make a Hitman movie again, just do the first hour to hour and 10 minutes of Trap. Like don't do exactly that, but just look at that for reference, and then also play one of your video game levels for reference, and then just do that.
And that's it. And like, lean into the comedy of it. Have 47 dress up as a little Dutch boy with the lollipop and like do nothing to disguise his voice or the fact that he's a grown man, but still insist that he's a little Dutch boy with a lollipop, and have that play into it or something, like in some way.
And like, everyone believes that he is a little boy aside from the little boy's mother. And even then, it takes her a little bit to realize the bar. It takes like 10 seconds for the bar to fill for her.
Yeah, I was going to say, he knows that she doesn't buy it because he can see the little white dot over her head. So he avoids it. While her unconscious son, because he loses points for killing people who aren't the target, while her unconscious son sleeps in a freezer.
Yeah. No, legit. If they did that, that would be great. It has to be really, really good for it to not get old for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I could see that being really good for like 45 minutes to an hour, but I'm sure there's great writers out there that could easily make it an hour and a half and still be great.
If they can find a way to simulate that ebb and flow of tension that comes with playing a Hitman level for the first time, and like, obviously you need to have moments where he does make little mistakes here and there to make it a movie, because then you can have like brief shootouts. But that's the thing, even in the games, a brief shootout is the longest you want, if any at all, because the longer a gunfight goes on, the more likely it is you're going to lose.
Right. Yeah.
Like, Hitman is not the sort of game where like a long drawn out gunfight drains all the enemies out of the level. It's one of those things where like the longer the gunfight goes on, the more people know who and where you are.
Yeah. The worse it can get.
And it's going to get worse from there. So, and it just makes the level harder the more fights you get into. So like, that's the sort of like tension that you want to simulate in a Hitman movie. Like like, yes, you can have at least one shootout in a Hitman movie, I would say. But the thing is, like, he's trying to avoid that. Like, Agent 47's trying to avoid that, and he doesn't want it to happen more than once.
Yeah, yeah.
If at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, Trap, I would say, based on the way you've described it, is at least for the concert portion, is a good example of what to look at for like a Hitman movie.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Not the big action blockbusters that they keep trying to do for Hitman.
Yeah, get rid of the action blockbuster, get rid of the narrative, like.
Yeah, like, cause that's not Hitman's identity.
Yeah. Like
Hitman's identity is actual serial killer Josh Hartnett.
Yeah.
I really hope that joke isn't suable.
No.
Not that, I mean, we're a little podcast. Who's going to hear this? But still, it's like, if it ever gets out there, Josh Hartnett, please no. We don't actually think you're a serial killer.
You're
We
not a
just think it's funny
serial
to say that
killer.
you are.
Wink, wink.
We just think it's funny to say that you are because you played one in the movie.
Yeah. You did a great job too. You play a great dad, and you're good at that balance in your life. I mean, the movie's life where you're both a good dad and a serial killer.
Yeah. I wish you were my dad / serial killer.
This sounds crazy. When I was watching the movie, like the first 15 minutes before it's really revealed that he's a serial killer and stuff, it's like, man, like, I don't know if Josh Hartnett is a dad yet, but he would be a great dad. I know he's acting here, but man, like, he seems like a great dad.
Well, I mean, if you look at him, he looks like someone's dad, and like not like in an unpleasant or insulting way. Like he seems like he seems nice in that way that dads seem nice just to look at. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He seems like a great guy. He says some dad jokes here and there. It feels real. That's the thing. M. Night Shyamalan's dialogue can always be weird and stuff, and almost all the time is. With Josh Hartnett, I know he is a serial killer in this, but like dads talk and say weird stuff sometimes. Aside from this serial killer thing, I feel like he wrote this character pretty well. Like this guy who, like, let's say we take away the serial killer aspect of him here. In all the weird stuff he said, it's like I said before, this is just like dads that are trying to conversate and talk with other people.
Yeah.
Where they can't really relate with this person. The only thing we relate on is, hey, our kids like each other, or hey, we're at this same concert together.
Well, Shyamalan writes all of his movies, right?
Yeah, most
and
of them.
he wrote this one, I'm assuming, as well.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, he's been a dad for a while now, like long enough for his daughters to be adults. So like, you know, he probably just channeled some real world dad experience into the character.
Yeah, he had to.
He probably sat down at his typewriter, because I know Shyamalan uses a typewriter. He seems like the type. Yeah. He probably sat down at his classic old timey typewriter and thought to himself, like, all right, M, write what you know. And he's like, you're a dad. Write a dad. And he just starts clicking and clacking away. He's like, this writing what I know thing is really flowing. Not only is he a dad, he's also a serial killer, just like me.
I can't believe I just wrote that in the draft. Let me
I'm gonna have to
let me white that out.
Where's my whiteout? Where's my whiteout? Spills his whiteout all over the first draft. Oh no! I have to rewrite the whole thing now.
Yeah, starts writing dialogue from The Happening.
The conversation where the old lady is accusing Mark Wahlberg of wanting to kill her is a conversation he actually had in real life.
Yeah,
he delivered it as convincingly.
No,
what? No, you're gonna kill me in my sleep. No. And on set, Mark Wahlberg is like, "Are you sure you don't want me to like deliver that more convincingly?" And M. Night Shyamalan's like, "Is that not convincing?"
It's like kind of sweating, thinking about the conversation he had.
His eyes go wide. He's wiping his forehead.
That wasn't convincing.
Convincing. That not convincing.
But I'll also say this. Like, he has awkward dialogue with adults 50% of, like, it's a toss-up whether it's going to be good dialogue or not from adults. Almost all the time his child dialogue is just so weird and bad. Like, almost all the time with his movies. It was that way with Old. It was that way with The Village some of the time, or not The Village, The Visit.
Yeah. A little bit in
And
Unbreakable. The kid in Unbreakable comes across.
yeah,
as a little
yeah,
weird.
yeah.
Signs. The kids are freaking weird in Signs.
Yeah, yeah. What I will say with Trap, you don't see his daughter a lot, Josh Hartnett's daughter a lot, but I don't know, it just seemed like for the most part, regular, feels like an actual kid. Doesn't feel like this weirdo, this weird little kid just placed into this movie, this alien kid.
Yeah, I was gonna say doesn't feel like a vessel for the spirit of the film.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No,
That's
I
often what the
think like,
children in his movies feel like they are just vessels for like the way the film is trying to communicate with the audience. It's hard to
oh yeah,
describe.
yeah. No, I think the only awkward dialogue, and I think it's a mix of both him, the writer, his dialogue, as well as her performance. I think the only awkward dialogue comes from his own daughter whenever she gets roped into the plot.
Yeah.
But other than that, like M. Night Shyamalan's daughter is what I mean.
Yeah.
Other than that, like I think the dialogue was fine in this movie.
Cut back to him on the set of Signs. And Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix are talking to him about how the kids are being directed. And Mel Gibson's like, well, how do how do your kids talk? Think about how your kids talk. Just direct them like that. And M. Night Shyamalan's like, that is how my kids talk. As he looks shamefully and sadly down at his script.
That would be hilarious if that's why all of his child dialogue throughout all of his movies just sounds so weird. That'd be hilarious if it's just like, I just listen to my kids and I just write down what they say.
They say, write what you know, and I know my kids. Like it's astounding to me that in Shyamalan's 30+ year career, the most natural feeling child character in any of his films was Haley Joel Osment's character in The Sixth Sense. And the only reason he comes across as natural is because of the extenuating circumstances of the experiences he's having in that movie.
Yeah. He's having
If he was
wild
under
and
any other
crazy.
type of pressure, that would
Yeah.
feel like an unnatural character. Like the fact
Oh,
that he
yeah.
sees dead people is the reason it's okay for him to be kind of off.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the only way like any of this child dialogue works. Like with The Sixth Sense is like, no, he has to be going through some weird stuff. And that's why he's kind of weird. And so it's okay for the dialogue to be like that.
Yeah. And even then, Haley Joel Osment's character in that movie isn't even that off. You know what I mean? He's not.
No, yeah. No.
Given the circumstances, I'd say he's taking it pretty well. But like for some reason, the kids in Shyamalan's movies just got weirder and weirder.
Yeah. But I know Trap isn't like oh my gosh, like M. Night Shyamalan did something amazing. It's not that. It was a fun time. I had a good time. The last quarter of it isn't bad, but it's weaker than all the stuff at the stadium. It was a fun time, and it's not like he had that resurgence with The Visit and then Split.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say like Split is like the best movie he's made in the past decade.
Oh yeah,
I'd agree.
Was like his, like if The Visit was like his foot in the door to get back, like to make a comeback, Split was him kicking the door down. And putting on the shades and saying like Daddy's home.
Yeah. And then since then, the movies he's done, let's see, after Split, you had Glass, then you had, which I still haven't seen Glass, but I heard it's not that great.
I would say about that. It's really just the ending where it falls apart.
Yeah.
On the whole, the movie's pretty decent.
Yeah. So thinking about it, you mentioning that statement made me realize I think he's just like, aside from dialogue and stuff, sometimes I think his biggest weakness is just an ending.
Yeah, probably. He has a hard time ending his movies.
He has a hard time ending his movies or doing a good ending, to where he'll cop out sometimes and do a twist.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't know how to make a regular good ending most of the time. So it's just, hey, twist.
Yeah.
And then when he doesn't do that, it's usually kind of a weak ending.
Yeah. I've noticed that like, again, going back to The Sixth Sense, that's like probably the best ending he has in a movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because even Unbreakable, which is great, like Unbreakable didn't know how to end so bad that it just stops.
Yeah.
Like Unbreakable doesn't end; it just starts rolling the credits.
Yeah. I do like the ending of Unbreakable, but it is one of those things where, like, Mr. Glass revealing who he is and what all he's done, like, that's the last, like, 2, maybe 3 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a revelation that happens like 15 minutes before credits start rolling. That's like the last 2 or 3 minutes, basically.
Yeah, and there's like no epilogue whatsoever.
Yeah.
It gives you some text on the screen saying like, here's what happened next, and then it ends. Like, so yeah, like Unbreakable, like I said, it doesn't end. It just stops and then the credits roll. So
Yeah.
it's such a like, it's so weird. Like, and again, like, I like Unbreakable. That's a good movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's so odd to me that that's the way that movie ends. I would say his two best endings are probably The Sixth Sense and Split.
Yeah.
Because at least Split takes the time to end.
Yeah.
And The Sixth Sense ending like on the twist, because it ends on the twist, right?
Yeah.
So like Sixth Sense ending there on the twist, that's also like a great way to end that movie specifically.
Yeah.
Like with The Sixth Sense, he really knew what he was doing, which is so, because like that was like his first. Was that his first movie or just his first big one?
It was his third movie, but it was like the biggest one at that time.
I'm gonna be honest and say probably the biggest mistake Shyamalan has made in his entire career was like making such an unquestionable, perfect like banger of a movie that early.
Oh yeah.
Because the Sixth Sense is, in my opinion, one of the closest things to perfect as a movie can get.
Yeah.
Like the Sixth Sense is a nearly perfect film.
I forget the specific filmmakers they talked about. A lot of magazines and articles at that time, after The Sixth Sense came out, a lot of them were saying like M. Night Shyamalan is the next Spielberg, or M. Night Shyamalan is the next this person or that person, like these giant filmmakers. And this was like his third movie, but really his first big movie. And people were saying he's the next this person. So yeah, like he made a very great movie, and that's really the movie that everyone caught eyes to. The others, there were probably film critics that saw the previous two, but like the masses, like, we didn't know who you were before The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
He makes that really great movie, and then unfortunately kind of just feels like he has to replicate the feeling of hey, like, what did people love about this movie? Oh, it was the twist.
Yeah, it was the gut punch right at the end.
Yeah, so I need to do more gut punches. Like, I need to do more twists. Yeah. And that's the lesson that he took that was the wrong lesson in it all.
Yeah.
To where it's got him here in his career, which his career isn't awful. He's had some bad movies, but
you know what?
I
would say most directors have more bad movies than good movies behind them.
Yeah.
Like, there are very, very rare exceptions of directors who are just like, every movie they release is pretty much universally loved. I would say like the two directors who immediately pop into my head are Spielberg and Tarantino for that.
Yeah, I was about to say like Tarantino, but I mean, like, this is a lot, but Tarantino has only done 9 movies, really 10. He counts Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 as one movie. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm gonna call it 2. So like 10 movies, whereas Spielberg has like 30 plus movies.
Yeah.
And like, Spielberg's the one person I'm like, man, like I don't love all of his movies, but he is like the best filmmaker
And
because
he's one of the most versatile filmmakers who's ever worked in the industry.
Oh yeah.
Like Spielberg can do it all. He can do kids movies, he can do adult movies, he can do blockbusters, he can do dramas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this huge range, and even like his weaker movies aren't like crap. They're like, that was okay. Like none of it's like bad.
But
So,
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you could show someone who's completely unfamiliar with Steven Spielberg like Jaws, and then show them Schindler's List and not tell them who directed either of them, and they would think two completely different directors made those movies.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of like his like very kid type movies.
E.T. Didn't he do E.T.?
Maybe E.T. Hold on. Yeah, he did E.T.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some even more very kiddie movies. Let's see, Steven Spielberg. I can think of a better example than this, but I was going to tack on to what you had just said. If you showed someone like Jaws, then you showed them Schindler's List, then you showed them like, I can think of a better one, but like Ready Player One.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, who directed these? The person is likely going to say, oh, there was a different director for each one of these. It's like, no, it's all the same guy.
There's 3 of the most different movies you could ever watch.
Yeah, yeah.
And like one of those movies, Schindler's List, is one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's like it's one of those things where when I think of movies, I don't often think of Steven Spielberg, which for like a movie buff, that's like a crime to not immediately think of Spielberg as like one of your first ones. But for me, his filmography wasn't as influential for me as it was for a lot of other people.
No, yeah, but, I feel the same.
But the thing is, though, like, I cannot deny that, like, yeah, Steven Spielberg made probably one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because I rank Schindler's List up there as like one of my favorites. Now, all of my favorites, because I found that I have to compartmentalize and categorize my like personal lists of favorites for things whenever I make lists of favorites for things, because it's too hard for me to just pick, within certain limitations. So right. Like I can't just pick 10 favorite movies, right? For me, I got to split it up between like what are my 10 favorite live action movies and what are my 10 favorite animated movies, because to me that seems fair. But yeah, Schindler's List is definitely on the list of 10 favorite live action ones, so it's in my top 20 overall, but at the very least.
Yeah, it's one of the things like what you said, Spielberg hasn't had like a huge, like, in terms of filmmakers, like impact on my life, but I do like all the movies I've seen from the guy, and he's made like so many movies, like Schindler's List of all his movies. It's probably definitely at the top for me of his movies. Like it's definitely like top 50, if not like top 25 movies for me. But I mean, yeah, there's like, I'm going through it now. There's like such a wild and weird range of movies looking at this, because you have Schindler's List, you have Ready Player One, you have Jurassic Park, you have Indiana Jones, you have Saving Private Ryan.
Oh my God, Saving Private Ryan. That's another one that's like so different from everything else on that list. Like you could put Indiana Jones and Jurassic Park next to each other and think, okay, that's the same guy.
Yeah. You would not think that Saving Private Ryan would fall into that of, oh, it's the same guy.
Yeah. And Jaws also falls in with Indiana and Jurassic Park. I would say those 3 like franchises are like, all 3 of those were definitely started by the same guy at least.
Yeah, you could see that.
Yeah, then cut to Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List, which are both movies that I would say, you could probably point to and think the same guy directed those, even though tonally and in terms of like the content, they're very different.
Yeah.
Even though they're about the same period in history too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Which
it's interesting to look at Spielberg's filmography and realize this was all the same guy.
yeah, yeah.
And like E.T. and Super 8, they fall in with each other pretty decently.
Yeah, yeah. E.T., Super 8, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, like
Yeah. Like
yeah.
he has certain spheres that he likes to work in.
Yeah,
But they're
yeah.
all so far and disparate from each other that like you can only really spot his style shared between them like when they are similar movies like in the same sphere.
Yeah, yeah. When you get out of that sphere or those genre types, like the alien movies or the action adventures, when you get out of those, like it's really hard to see like, oh, this is Spielberg. Like we mentioned Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan. The Color Purple, I think, is a very underrated movie. I like love The Color Purple, which is why I was like so sad last year that they made a reboot musical of it. But and that's not like bashing the people that made it. It's more just like I saw Mean Girls and they tried making a musical, and I saw the Mean Girls musical, and it's just a lesser version of Mean Girls. And it's not hating on musicals. It's just when you take these movies or these properties that are so good already.
Yeah. Well, like, the thing about musicals is they try to make musicals out of almost anything, you know. And the thing is, though, the best musicals are built from the ground up as musicals to begin.
Yes. Yes. Like original, like properties, essentially. Like that's where I know the people that are like musical nerds or musical buffs might hate me for saying this. I like at least High School Musical 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Like they're fun. Are they amazing, great movies? No. But they are fun movies, and I get a ton of nostalgia from them because I remember the first one came out when I was in like elementary school.
Some of my favorite videos on YouTube are High School Musical with realistic audio.
Yeah, yeah.
Where instead of the music and the singing, you just hear the squeaking of their shoes on the basketball court and the
yeah.
And like
there's
the
more
rhythmic beating of the pans in the kitchen.
Yeah, yeah. There's more instances I could probably think of. But hold on, now that's leading me kind of what we were talking about here. Fast forwarding into Disney musicals, because High School Musical was Disney. Fast forwarding into those Disney Channel musicals, then they made like Descendants. And Descendants are about the Disney villains, their children.
Yeah.
And it's following them, and then there's musical numbers and stuff, and it's them being bad, but they start becoming good when they go to the good high school and all that stuff. It's almost like Disney bad guy High School Musical.
Yeah.
But I don't like those movies, and it's not just a nostalgia thing. I think it plays into just like it's not entirely from the ground up original.
Yeah.
I think
it doesn't feel like it was built to be a musical.
Yeah, dog must hate my opinion on Descendants.
I think that the musical composition and the choreography is stellar.
I will say that the choreography is great. I remember a couple of the songs. I don't remember a lot of the songs.
Yeah, I've never seen the Descendants movies.
I've seen 1 and 2. That's just because I had a little sister and she grew up on Descendants.
Yeah, those were the DComs she grew up on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I was there for Xenon of the 21st Century. I was there for Phantom of the Metroplex. Like, you want to talk about DComs? I know the classics. I was there for the 13th year. I when High School Musical was new.
I got into like because I wasn't a big Disney guy growing up in terms of turning it to Disney Channel. Yeah. I would watch the Disney Channel original movies, like The Irish, Parent Trap, like stuff like that.
The Parent Trap wasn't a Disney Channel original. That was a theatrical one.
Well, it came on Disney Channel. That's
yeah, they played it a lot.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I remember the movies. I didn't watch a lot of the late 90s, very early 2000s Disney shows. Like the ones I remember starting to watch whenever I finally turned it to Disney Channel was like Phil of the Future,
Oh yeah,
Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
All the ones that I just named were all movies.
Oh, okay.
Because the DCOM is short for Disney Channel Original Movie.
Okay, I gotcha.
So like any movie that started with the "Let's watch a Disney Channel movie" like that theme song.
Yeah.
That means that it was one of the movies that was original to the Disney Channel.
In that intro, did it have like the kids like jumping on the film?
Yeah, jumping
like
through like the film tracks on like this nebulous sky-like void.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like okay, yeah. Like a lot of the Disney original movies, I remember watching those. But I don't know. I wasn't a big Disney guy. I got my kicks from Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon and stuff.
Yeah. I definitely watched, or I tried at least to watch a lot more Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon than Disney Channel, because Disney didn't always have like all the interesting stuff. Like for me, all the most interesting stuff was, well, mostly the cartoons. I've always been an animation nerd even before I realized it. Like, American Dragon, Jake Long, Lilo and Stitch, Recess, Kim Possible, The Proud Family, all those ones. All those ones are good. And I did watch like Phil of the Future and That's So Raven and The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Yeah.
Younger.
They had, at least like in the early to mid 2000s, that's when they didn't get rid of animation and cartoon shows, but that wasn't the priority anymore.
They really started downplaying them.
Yeah. Disney was the first of those three channels that really focused on, hey, live action or live action sitcom. That's what we do.
And the thing is, Disney kind of because one of the first I want to say the first of the three big kids networks, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney, the first one of them to have a dumping ground for cartoons that weren't doing well was Nickelodeon. Because if a cartoon wasn't doing well, they moved it to Nicktoons Network, and that usually meant it was about to be canceled.
Yeah.
And then and Cartoon Network didn't have anywhere else to go with their cartoons because they were already the Cartoon Network.
Yeah. And they stayed the Cartoon Network till like about 2008. That's when it changed up again.
Yeah, they started doing more live action stuff. But then,
I think they stayed the longest with strictly cartoons.
Yeah, and then Disney Channel, they had Toon Disney for a while, which wasn't necessarily a dumping ground for stuff they were about to cancel, but more a showcase for stuff that had already run its course. Like a lot more of the retro stuff was played on Toon Disney, which is like Goof Troop, DuckTales, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. Like that's where you would find all the shows that weren't running anymore. Like they had already kind of run their course and weren't getting new episodes. But then I don't remember. Oh, right. I think Toon Disney is what became Disney XD. And they did start trying to come up with original live action programming for it on top of the cartoons. But I think Disney XD kind of became Disney's dumping ground for cartoons that weren't doing well anymore.
Yeah, I remember when Disney XD like first like launched, or at least like the rebrand from Disney Toons. I remember liking Disney XD.
Yeah, me too. And the thing is, something that I find interesting about Disney XD too is that once Disney started getting into the anime market, that's where they were putting all their anime. Like when Disney had the license for Pokemon, that's where new English episodes of Pokemon would air, was Disney XD.
Oh, okay.
Which it's crazy that they were able to wrestle that away from Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
It's completely insane to me that Disney got Pokemon from Cartoon Network, because Warner Brothers used to have Pokemon's American distribution rights pretty much.
Right.
And then, like I said, Disney got it, and they would always put new episodes of Pokemon on Disney XD. Now Netflix owns Pokemon's American distribution rights.
Oh, okay.
Which is why all the new seasons of Pokemon have been on Netflix for the past like 5 or 6 years.
Oh, dang. I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for America, Ash's final episodes were on Netflix.
Oh.
When Ash and Pikachu did their final tournament before the characters were retired.
Yeah.
They those episodes were aired in English for the first time, I believe, on Netflix. So yeah, it's been a crazy ride for Pokemon. But yeah, but Disney XD, and Disney XD is still doing like anime and stuff. They've got Yu-Gi-Oh and Beyblade.
Oh, dang. That's cool.
Which all that stuff, like I know Jetix was like the late night block for Toon Disney back in the day, and that was basically Disney's equivalent to Toonami, where they would air all their anime or stuff that was for slightly older kids. They never went fully into adult content on Jetix.
Yeah.
But like it's where like they would air reruns of Batman the Animated Series, and Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go, and then like actual anime like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. But but now Disney XD just does that on Saturday mornings instead.
Okay.
Well, not like Batman and stuff, because the corporate wars have gotten to such a point that no one will share IP with anyone.
Yeah.
If they consider them to be a major rival. Like Amazon seems to be the only company that can bridge that gap.
Yeah. Like Amazon's the only one where it's like, okay, we can have some Disney stuff on here. Okay, we'll even isn't that new Batman animated series, isn't it Amazon exclusive or something?
It's Amazon Prime exclusive.
Yeah. So yeah, Amazon's pretty much the only one that can bridge that gap, like you said. Yeah, I was just thinking about Disney XD. Can't remember how old when I started watching that or when it came out, but I remember that was kind of the main stuff I watched on Disney at that time, because Disney really leaned into the sitcoms and stuff, and by that time That's So Raven was already gone.
Yeah.
Sweet Life of Zack and Cody was done, but now they were doing Sweet Life on Deck, and I was watching a decent bit of that.
And I think even by the time Disney XD came up, the greatest anime of all time, Cory in the House, had already come and gone.
Yes, it did. all 2 or 3 years it had.
Yep.
I remember, that's the thing. I remember watching a decent bit of Cory in the House.
You know, me too. I watched a lot of Cory in the House, and yeah, it apparently didn't leave much of an impression because I barely remember it.
I don't remember anything. I'm almost certain, the one thing I do remember, I'm almost certain the reason I stuck with it so long was almost like on a subconscious level, because I thought the female friend was very pretty.
You know, I was about to say exactly the same thing. That's probably why I watched too.
Yeah. That's almost definitely the reason I watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't remember anything about that show. I remember the premise. I remember his dad is the chef for the president now, and that's why they live in the White House. And I remember all the characters. I remember the dumb guy played by the blonde guy that later plays PJ from another freaking Disney show. I can't even remember what it's called. I remember all the characters, the daughter of the president, like the kind of bratty daughter. I remember all the characters, but don't remember, couldn't tell you a plot from any of the episodes.
There's one episode that I remember the basic premise for. Cory accidentally gives the deed to Alaska back to Russia.
Oh man, I think I remember seeing that episode. What I remember now, I remember the commercial for that episode, because they would actually have the commercials for like their biggest shows, and they would have like a little 10-15 second little clip from an episode or whatever. I remember the commercial for that episode.
In this episode, Corey farts really loud while the president's on a conference call with the leaders of Russia and Ukraine in the middle of peace talks. You won't believe what happens next.
Corey starts World War III.
All because of his duty poopy butthole. Don't miss the next episode of Corey in the House, Friday night, 8/7 Central. Only on the Disney Channel. Bam, 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 bam.
Oh no, it's me, Corey. I just hit the nuclear button. Oh no.
And now the president of Russia has me tied to one of the ICBMs. Right? It's ICBM? I think so.
I guess. Yeah.
One of the big nuclear missiles. Oh no. And now it's launching.
It shows the horrible green screen and he's wiggling tied to the rocket. Like his 1,000 feet up.
His skateboard stoner friend is like, "Don't worry, I got you, Corey." And he skateboards up the smoke trail of the rocket. How did you do that, blonde white friend? The power of friendship, Corey. They kiss passionately.
Yeah, that's the thing is, okay, I remember.
I was gonna say, speaking of dumb skateboarders, I don't even remember the name of the show. Do you remember Zeke and Luther? Yes, I was gonna say, do you remember that
when
was
we
like
were talking
Disney XD's like first live action
I was about to say,
flagship show?
When we were talking about Disney XD, the two shows I remember the most from Disney XD were Kick Buttowski and then Zeke and Luther. Those were the two shows I remember the most from Disney XD.
I never watched Kick Buttowski, but I do remember Zeke and Luther.
Kick Buttowski was fun. It's just a kid daredevil. It was a fun show from what I remember. Zeke and Luther might be one of the dumbest shows ever, but at the time and stage I was in my life where I was big into skateboarding, I was big into surfing before I hit a growth spurt and didn't have great balance. It was a time where I was big into like X Games type stuff, like extreme sports stuff. We even had DirecTV, and DirecTV had a channel called Fuel TV. That was nothing but surfing and skateboarding and those type of shows. So Zeke and Luther came on at the perfect time in my life. And I remember loving it. If I tried watching an episode now, I'd probably think it's the dumbest thing ever.
You'd probably shrivel up from raw cringe.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure there's a ton of cringe in it.
Most of the Disney shows from our childhood, like, because from my memory, with all of like the Disney Channel shows, every single line delivery is everyone yelling at the top of their lungs, gesticulating wildly.
Yeah.
For some reason, every episode of every show at some point features a stage where a character needs to wear a disguise so that they can uncover a truth or sneak in somewhere. It's like, I don't know why that was such a trope with Disney Channel shows.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Like literally every episode of That's So Raven, she has to wear a disguise at some point.
Yeah. That was the thing is Zeke and Luther, I think aside from me being into like the extreme sports era, I had a phase basically. Aside from me being in that phase, I think it was like the one Disney sitcom or show that felt like a Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon sitcom or show. It didn't really feel like a Disney Channel show because it was so stupid. Like it was more stupid than your Disney Channel show at that time. And
it's the only like Disney show from our adolescence that I can think of that explored what would have been considered a counterculture at the time.
Yeah.
Because I think wasn't like skateboarding still kind of like a countercultural sort of thing when we were young, or am I wildly misremembering? To
a degree, yeah. I'd say you're about right. Like it wasn't like I I think it was still one of those things where your average suburban mom wasn't going to let her son or daughter just like go to a skate park sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so it was it's the only like Disney show, or at least the first Disney show from that era that like explored a counterculture like that. All the others, like even back then, Disney was so afraid to represent anything even like mildly offensive that it all had to revolve around things like pop stars or teenage psychics or two wascally little boys in a hotel.
Yeah.
It couldn't really delve into characters who like had a definitive identifiable lifestyle that they were trying to follow.
Yeah.
So Zeke and Luther was definitely like, these two guys are skateboarders, and a lot of their behavior is kind of shorthand for stoner sort of thing. Like, because I think that was another thing about it too, is like skateboarding at the time was very synonymous with like stoner culture.
Oh yeah. That's
as
why
much as like
I also
Hacky Sack
mentioned.
Was.
Yeah, that's why I also mentioned like average suburban mom isn't going to let their son or daughter go to a skate park because it was so much of like kind of synonymous with that culture.
Yeah. So yeah, like Zeke and Luther was interesting, and you're right. It did feel more like something Cartoon Network was cooking up at the time, or Nickelodeon. Even it felt more like a Nickelodeon show because Nick was between the two really big ones. Because Cartoon Network is kind of the third option between the three.
Yeah.
Between the two really big kids networks, Nick was always the edgier one. Nick was always the one that pushed boundaries just a little bit further. And a lot of that was Dan Schneider's fault.
Yeah.
But, there were also shows where, like, years before Zeke and Luther was on the air, Nickelodeon had Rocket Power.
Yeah, that's true.
Nickelodeon had As Told by Ginger, which was very much a teen-oriented show.
Right.
My Life as a Teenage Robot was a slightly more edgy look at teenage life, and retroactively is looked at very much as a trans allegory.
Yeah. Drake and Josh, like yes, they have this with Disney shows, but Drake and Josh, there's a lot heavier thing of teenage boys trying to get some girls.
Yeah, like Drake and Josh addresses the fact that Drake and Josh are a pair of like horny little weirdos. And
yeah. Josh loves Oprah. He's just making out with an Oprah cutout.
I mean, for God's sake, Nickelodeon were the ones who originally had Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, that's true.
So like Nick was always the edgier between the two. So like Zeke and Luther from that era specifically feels way more like a Zeke and Luther, I want to say, feels as Nickelodeon as Disney could get, the same way Big Time Rush feels as Disney as Nickelodeon could get.
That's a good comparison. Yeah. I'd say that's pretty spot on.
Because Big Time Rush feels like it was supposed to be a Disney show, but Disney didn't want it, so they went to Nick instead.
No, I definitely see that. That's a good comparison. Yeah. But the olden days.
Yeah. Speaking of the olden days and all these old cartoons and Cartoon Networks and cartoons on networks, I've got a couple of cartoons to talk about today.
Okay.
One is current, one is old.
All right.
I'll talk about the current one first. Hang on, I have Amazon Prime pulled up so I can look at the titles on my list because at least one of them I have a hard time remembering, and it's the one I'm about to talk about. So I got to look for it. That's just a second.
Yeah.
It is Japanese, but that's not the reason that I have a hard time remembering the title because it has an English title. There we go.
Yeah.
So you might have seen you may be seeing memes on the internet inspired by this one. It's called My Dear Friend Nokotan.
Don't know if I've heard of that.
And Deer is spelled Deer. So this show is completely bonkers. It is an anime. It is an anime, and it's about a girl named I think Koshi is her name, or Koshitan as like her cute little friend nickname. So Koshitan is like, she's your typical popular girl from a Japanese anime, which means that like she excels in academics. She's athletic. Everybody loves her. She's very polite and nice. She helps old ladies cross the street, all that jazz. And she does all this to hide the fact that she used to be a delinquent. Like squatting low to the ground, holding a baseball bat over her shoulder type of delinquent that you see in a lot of anime. And she had like a whole gang and everything, but she doesn't want anybody to know about that. So she's overcompensating by being the perfect popular girl sort of student. And one day on the way to school, she meets, through some bizarre circumstances, a girl named Shikonoko who has a pair of deer antlers sticking out of her head. So Shikonoko, or Nokotan for short, hence the title of the show, My Dear Friend Nokotan, is weird. She's like a weirdo. She's a weird person.
Right.
Her antlers apparently give her the ability to sense that Koshitan used to be a delinquent for some reason. And she tries to bribe Koshitan into being her friend by giving her a mountain of deer crackers. And then they clean out the school's storage room that nobody is using together, so that they can turn it into the deer club room. And the deer club takes care of deer. Which
it's a very specific club to have in a school.
Yes, and their teacher approved it because she likes Nokotan. And Koshitan was named the president of the club, and Koshitan's like, why me? And then Nokotan's like, well, the club's function is to take care of deer, and I'm a deer.
Mm-hmm.
And so she hands Koshitan a brush, and she's like, can you brush my hair?
Okay.
So, like, that's the thing, is that, like, Nokotan made friends with this girl and started this club so that she could have someone to brush her hair after school every day.
Okay.
It's such a weird show. And, like, there are, like, throughout the first episode, I've only seen the first episode. Throughout the first episode, there are these, like, CGI deer following them around and watching everything that happens, going, shiko, shiko, every once in a while. And you can probably tell by my subtitle for the episode, that's like the opening line of the theme song that I have written down there.
Okay.
And it's repeated 4 times in the theme song. And it's got like, it's one of those ones where it's got like a whole dance associated with it and everything. It's nuts. This show is insane. I'm loving it. There was a lot of hype leading up to it because everybody knew it was going to be a meme show. And everybody's been calling it the Deer anime for like a month. It's 5 episodes deep already. Like I said, I've only seen the first episode. It's funny. It's really funny. And the thing is that watching it on Prime, I'm not sure who's dubbing it. Because it might also be available on Crunchyroll. I'm not sure.
Okay.
If it is, it's possible that this might have more than one dub.
Oh, dang.
I don't know if that's the case. I'm not sure, but I'm watching it on Prime, and this does not sound like a Crunchyroll dub. Because at this point, Crunchyroll has such an established stable of voice actors that, like, you know when you're watching a Crunchyroll dub.
Right, right.
And like because they have this very particular style to like delivery most of the time. It's like you can tell that it's like a really developed and established company and like agency as far as like casting for anime dubs.
Yeah.
This series sounds, as far as the dubbing goes, like it's from like 2002.
Okay.
The actress who does the voice of Koshitan, this is not meant to be an insult. I'm just saying what I'm hearing. She sounds like a first timer, a really solid first timer, and she's like, if this actress does a lot more dubs in the future, I don't know how many she's done in the past, if any, but she's definitely got like I think room to improve and will improve.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know the actress's name, but like, yeah, like she sounds fresh, you know, she sounds new.
Yeah, yeah.
But it does give her like the fact that it sounds like she's not used to doing this does kind of give her like an interesting delivery when it comes to reading her lines. I have no idea how to describe it. It's just like this sounds like a dub from just like a new dubbing house, like a new agency.
Okay.
Like it sounds like these actors aren't as used to doing this as the Crunchyroll actors are.
Yeah, yeah.
Because all of the actors on Crunchyroll's payroll used to work for Funimation before Funimation was folded into Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
So like at Crunchyroll, you've got like Chris Sabat and Monica Rial and Austin Tyndall and why am I blanking on names all of a sudden? Colleen Klinkenbeard. And like all of them, like all of these like long-time veteran anime dub voice actors over there at Crunchyroll. And even comparing this Dear Anime's dub to like a Netflix dub. Netflix has a lot of veterans on their payroll too. Like you hear Todd Haberkorn and Jeremy Lee in Netflix dubs all the time these days. Like which to me tells me that Netflix definitely poached them off of Funimation because they used to be in Funimation dubs all the time.
Yeah.
And then Bryce Papenbrook kind of just goes between them. He's in both Netflix and Crunchyroll dubs all the time. That's the guy who does the voice of Eren in Attack on Titan.
Okay.
But yeah, like in this, like I recognized literally none of the voices in My Dear Friend Nokotan, which is a part of what's communicating to me that either this is just like a dubbing agency that doesn't get a lot of attention, or they're very new.
Right.
So I'll have to do more research to figure out like who's responsible for the dub of My Dear Friend Nokotan. It's entirely possible because again, I don't know like who has like the rights to this show in America. It's possible that like Amazon started doing dubs.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I know Amazon tried to make a push for like having their own basically anime section of their streaming service a long time ago.
Yeah.
And that failed in general. But like, yeah, it's possible that they might be trying to get in on the anime market again and have started by producing dubs. Again, I got to do more research.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are just my initial impressions. My Dear Friend Nokotan, absolutely hilarious. I love it. Great first episode. Weird characters. Just and this isn't even the strangest anime I've seen. Like, I don't want to oversell this. This is not the strangest anime you can watch. But it is up there.
Okay. I might have to check it out. You said it's on Prime?
Yeah. It's not Fooly Cooly or Pop Team Epic levels of weird, but it is stranger than an average episode of like Nichijou. So it's Honestly, it reminds me a lot of Nichijou in terms of overall vibe too, just like with how it oversells jokes with ludicrously like detailed animation uh at points where like it's completely unfitting just for the sake to like sell a joke.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what Nichijou did a lot. Nichijou would go so far overboard with its animation just to sell the smallest jokes, and that was like the point. That was the humor. And my dear friend Nokotan definitely like follows in those footsteps and has a lot of moments like that where it'll go super far overboard with visually what it's depicting just to communicate the smallest little joke to you.
Okay.
So and like just as an example, there's a moment where Nokotan has gifted Koshitan a mountain of deer crackers, which are apparently just these kind of bland crackers. I don't know what's in a deer cracker,
Yeah,
but but Nokotan likes them a lot, and so she thought that would be like an appropriate gift. It's just a mountain of crackers. And there's a point where she's looking in at Koshitan at like her desk at school, and she's like standing in the doorway to the classroom, and to represent that she herself would very much like to have some of those crackers, but is holding back. There's a point where she just opens her mouth in slow motion, and this cascading waterfall just pours out with a rainbow and everything of her mouth. And like it, and this dramatic like boom, boom, drum is playing with Shiko in like deep like sumo voices, like playing as this slow motion waterfall is just falling out of her mouth, and then like once it cuts to like normal and she's just standing in the door, you just hear ah la, la, and she's drooling, and the waterfall is just coming out of her mouth with a little rainbow and everything. And Koshitan's just like, why are you standing in the doorway and drooling? Nokotan's just like, oh, and then she like cuts it out and then like closes her mouth and starts walking into the room and like trips a little bit in the puddle as she's walking in. Like it's not just like a one-off little gag of like, oh, she's drooling a waterfall. It's like she left a puddle on the floor with her drool and she almost slipped and fell. Like all just to communicate that like she likes the crackers.
Yeah.
She wants some crackers. It's so yeah, it does that kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's very funny. I like it. I enjoyed the first episode. And that's the first of the two cartoons I wanted to talk about today. That's the new one, the Japanese one. I got a Canadian one to talk about now.
When you mentioned Deer People, the first thing that popped in my mind was a comic that came out. I saw it at the comic shop a few months ago. It's called Dear Editor. It's nothing like the show you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it deals with a deer person, and it just made me think of that. I read the first issue way back then, and it's still stuck in my head. So eventually, once they make a trade, I might have to read the whole thing. But it's called Deer Editor, and it's DEER Editor. And it's a journalist of like this paper that like does the local crime journalism and stuff. Let me see if I can actually pull up the quick synopsis. Okay, so basically a slaying that happens within this town like lures a journalist into this world of like political intrigue, all kinds of stuff happening. And for Bucky, which is the editor of the crime beat at The Truth, it's all in a day's work, but he also happens to be a deer. And it's basically like a crime noir.
Oh,
but it's just a deer, essentially.
But Bucky, like a buck.
But yeah.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Took me a second.
Like everyone else is human. It's just this one guy.
It's just this one guy.
Journalist is a deer.
Why?
It plays it very much like a straight face crime noir. but he's a deer.
But why?
And I don't know. I remember liking the first issue because it was like intriguing crime noir, and it is funny in that like it's not doing too many jokes. It is ultimately just like, this is a deer in a suit, and it's this is so stupid, but like, I don't know. I might get the trade eventually because it's not just like this dumb thing. It actually was like a decent crime noir that was setting up.
I would not be questioning why he's a deer at all if there were other animal people. Not even if everyone else was an animal person. Just if there were some other animal people, I would think like, okay, it's BoJack rules.
No,
why
from what
he
I
a
remember, yeah, from what I remember, everyone else is human. He's just a deer. I don't remember if there's any like deer puns or like crime noir type of deer puns mentioned in the book. I can't remember any of that. Maybe there are. If not, I think it's just a random thing to see. / they wanted the name of the book to be Dear Editor, and they wanted it to be DEER. I don't know.
Brandon, I'm going to start crying. I'm about to start crying.
I can't remember.
This is like, the thought of this is stressing me out so much, and I don't know why.
But yeah, sorry, you mentioning the deer people. That was the first thing that popped into my mind because it I guess stuck with me for a few months.
See, when I think of deer people in comic books, I think of Sweet Tooth.
Yeah. No. This is like a deer. I think he's walking on like 2 legs the whole time. I don't think it's like 4 legs, but it's a deer walking on his antlers, in a suit and a buck head, and he has like deer antler like hooves for hands, or not deer antler hooves for hands.
Hooves. Okay. I was gonna say he's got antlers for hands.
Yeah. No. But yeah, that was the first thought I thought when you said deer person. So sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I'm glad you told me. I think.
I think it has like really good reviews. Let me check. Let's see. Dear Editor, comic book roundup.
Okay.
Let's see here real quick.
So the thing is,
Okay.
I'm realizing now that this is about like not only with like you talking about something with a pun title. So I've already talked about something with a pun title as well. With my dear friend Noko Tan.
Yeah.
I'm realizing now that the second of the 2 cartoons I wanted to talk about has another pun title.
Nice. That's how it should be. Before you get to that, I will say, Dear Editor, there's only 3 issues that are reviewed on Comic Book Roundup, which is like collectively, it's like the Rotten Tomatoes almost of comic book reviews and stuff.
Yeah. How are they rated? Is it certified fresh?
The series itself, only 3 issues on this, but the series itself has a 8 out of 10 from critics. That's the critic rating. User rating is 9 out of 10.
Okay, all right.
So it's pretty good for Comic Book Roundup. So might have to wait till the trade comes out. But anyway, you're about to say another show with a pun.
With a pun title. All right. So on top of this, you're also probably going to hear me rant a little bit about Greek mythology for a good bit.
Okay.
Just usual sorts of things that I scream about. So the show, this is one from 2006. It is a Canadian cartoon called Class of the Titans.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever heard of this.
It ran from like 2006 to I want to say 2009. 52 total episodes, very respectable run. Spread across 4 seasons. I watched the first 4 episodes like last night. Probably stayed up later than I should have to do it, but I was in the mood for a Canadian cartoon. I was not expecting it. Like, I wasn't expecting much from it, to be honest. I don't know why. Canada's got some good cartoons.
Oh, I was about to say, I'm not expecting much from Canada. No,
Yeah, no, like I have reasons to expect good things from Canada. Like, 16 is a
Canada.
pretty decent show. Total Drama Island's fantastic, at least for the first season. And like old school, and I mean pre-Flash animation, old school Johnny Test is still pretty solid.
Yeah.
Once they switched to Flash animation and started abusing the hell out of their whip crack sound effect, they that's when Johnny Test went downhill. But like actual, like traditionally animated Johnny Test, when it still looked good, that's good.
Yeah,
that's a good show. So yeah, Class of the Titans though, pretty solid. I like it. First 4 episodes, real good. It's like the first 3 episodes were like the premiere collectively. They all told one story. And then episode 4 gets into the actual rhythm of the show, where it's more of a monster of the week sort of thing. But what Class of the Titans is it's about 7 teenagers who are all descendants of Greek heroes. And I use the word heroes very loosely because one of them is actually descended from a goddess. And another one, I'll get into the 7th one. Don't worry about it.
I gotcha.
Because the thing is, when it comes to the 7th one, the characters in the show question it as much as I do, as someone who's familiar with Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny to hear their doubts, or rather, hear my doubts expressed through the characters in the show. So it's like, the writers knew that he was going to be a weird pull, but I'll get to it when I get to it.
Okay.
So it's about 7 teenagers who are all descended from figures of Greek mythology. And they're like all destined to be the heroes who stop Cronus from being the bad guy. Cronus being the father of the 6 original Olympian gods. Who ate his 5 older children, and then Zeus, the only one to escape, defeated him and freed his siblings. And then they trapped him in the pits of Tartarus for all eternity. And this show's interpretation of Cronus is pretty interesting. I like him. He's a good villain. Very villainous. And he like presents like an appropriate threat for like the 7 heroes to come together. So the spread of characters is interesting. So you start with, and they all have names that kind of like evoke the figure they're descended from.
Right. So
you have the leader, Jay, who is descended from Jason, captain of the Argo.
Okay.
So like it makes sense that like like when you think of Greek mythology, Jason's superpower is that he was like Greek Captain America, basically.
Right.
So Jay is basically Captain America for this group.
Yeah.
He's the leader. He coordinates everybody, and like I will say, the writing in the show, as far as the characters are concerned, pretty good, because it does manage to really ground Jay as a believable leader for this group of characters. Like he speaks with authority. He knows what he's doing, and he knows what he wants his team to do. So you can understand why they would follow his lead.
Does he ever say, "Titans, go"?
No.
Oh.
Because they don't refer to themselves as the Titans. They call it Class of the Titans exclusively for the pun. They're not. These guys.
I gotcha.
It is 100% like pun forward. Hey, let's call it Class of the Titans because it sounds like Clash of the Titans, and it's about Greek mythology, and that's it. It stops there.
Yeah. It's mostly like an action adventure show.
Yeah. It's an action. Yeah, and like it's very, very like one thing that I will say that I like is how steadily rooted in Greek mythology it is. Like the show is decently dedicated to presenting a somewhat accurate, albeit child-friendly interpretation of Greek mythology.
Right.
Like, obviously, it can't go into all of the details of family trees and certain deeds because those are, you know, considerably more adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it manages to catch like the essence of each topic that it covers pretty decently. So on top of Jay, there's Harry. Now, okay, we're gonna play a game from this point on. And see how well you know Greek mythology, I guess. Based on
I haven't looked at it since middle school.
Yeah, based on the name Harry, what Greek figure would you guess this character is meant to evoke?
Harry.
If you need hints for like his role in the team, I can give them to you.
No, not Hermes. Harry. I mean, does it start with an H?
It does.
Okay, I was about to say
all of their names start with either the same letter or same basic sound.
Okay.
Oh wait. Well, there is one exception, but her name starts with the same 2 letters as her hero.
Okay. I'm trying to reach in the recesses of my mind.
He's an extremely famous one. Probably the most famous one.
Hercules?
Did you say Hercules?
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
He's the big guy. He's the strong man of the group. But one thing that I like about Harry, the way he is, at least in the first 4 episodes, is that even though he's the strong guy, he's not stupid.
Okay.
He's presented as someone of reasonable intelligence. Like, he's not the smart one in the group.
Yeah. But
he's also like they definitely don't play into the stereotype that the big guy is the big dumb one. He follows Jay's orders and has like a very friendly relationship with Jay, since they were like the first 2 dudes in the group to show up. So like Harry kind of he very much gives like strong right hand sort of vibes, where you get the sense that like Harry's kind of the go-to guy for Jay, or at least one of the go-to guys for Jay. But yeah, like he's the big strong one. He's the one where when they need muscle, they get him because he's got like the strength of Hercules. Which, okay, that's a bugbear for me. The fact that they use the name Hercules, and here's why that is. And I know Hercules is the more popular name. It's the one that everybody recognizes. Hercules is his Roman name. His Greek name is Heracles. But every single Greek mythology thing, like in the modern day, calls him Hercules. Disney's Hercules. Dwayne Johnson's Hercules. Kevin Sorbo's Hercules. Hercules in God of War.
I think it's one of those things where it is like once 1 or 2 very popular movies or shows or whatever uses it that way, you as a company kind of have to go that way just out of like sound and name recognition.
I know. But like the thing is, Heracles isn't that far off. People would get it. People would know.
Spelling wise, yes. But in terms of like dum-dums hearing it, sorry if you think you're a dum-dum. I don't think everyone here, if you're listening, if you're a dum-dum. I'm saying like the average like person who doesn't focus on this stuff is like, oh yeah, what is that? Heracles. It sounds like, what is that? I'm gonna go watch this movie. I'm gonna go watch Despicable Me 5.
I love those minions.
Love me some minions.
But yeah, well, see, for me, the thing is like, I guess it also kind of comes down to like how detailed your version of the story is too. Like Hercules is perfectly serviceable as his name. It's fine. The thing is, like, there are versions of the story where like his name was like something else. He had a different name when he was born. But the thing is though, like he's one of Zeus's many children born out of wedlock. So Hera hates him. So that does leave you with the question: if Hera hates him, why is he named after her? Well, here's why. The farmer couple who raised him, because he's not raised by his biological mother; she died. Heracles is Heracles is an orphan child who came from the sky and was raised by an old farming couple. Hey, wait a minute. So that sounds familiar. So anyway, yeah, like Heracles was raised by a pair of farmers, and his name was not Heracles to begin with, but Hera was just so upset at the fact that he existed. And she tried to kill him a couple times while he was a baby, once by like sending snakes, but he strangled them as an infant. That the farming couple thought it would appease her if they named him after her, so they changed his name to Heracles, and that's why he has Hera's name in his name. He was literally named after her to appease her, and that actually just made her even angrier. But yeah, but like when you go to the Roman version of it, none of that translates, because his Roman name is Hercules. And Hera's Roman name is, if I remember correctly, what is her Roman name? Give me a second. I'm gonna Google it. I'm gonna Google Hera's Roman name. What just happened? Are you still there?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. My phone's glitching out and doing weird things as I'm messing with it. Anyway,
my phone is saying Juno.
It is Juno?
That's what it says.
I thought that was Athena's Roman name. Hera, Roman name. It is Juno. Okay. Well, then what's Athena's Roman name? I thought that was Athena's Roman name. Let me look it up. Athena Roman name. Minerva is Athena's Roman name. I got them confused. So yeah, still it doesn't translate, right? Hercules, Juno. They don't even sound similar.
Yeah.
So yeah. Whatever. That's just a bug up my butt that I'm gonna have to live with for my entire life.
Yes.
It's no different from the fact that I have to listen to other people chew, or or something. A third example that I can't think of right now. So yeah, Harry is descended from Hercules. Now, here's the next character. Now, her name, if you're not familiar with Greek mythology stuff, is going to be very misleading. And also, the figure she's associated with annoys me a little bit based on the general conceit of the show, but I'll get into that once we play our guessing game.
Okay.
So, the third member is named Atlanta.
Oh, I think the only reason I remember this is there's like I just remember, I don't know, it's weird word association that I remember from middle school. Isn't it just like I barely know anything about, I think it's a goddess, like it's almost sounds exactly like Atlanta. It's like Atlanta or is Atalanta or something.
Atalanta or Atalante.
Yeah.
So you're on the right track, but the figure that Atlanta is associated with is actually Artemis.
Oh, really?
Yes. I don't know why it wasn't Atalante, because Artemis is one of the goddesses who's sworn to celibacy. So why would she have a human descendant?
Yeah.
Like, Artemis is like the original ace icon. Like,
Well, maybe she made her out of clay.
but yeah, so Atlanta is like a distant descendant of Artemis. I don't know why they would like name the character Atlanta, because that clearly shows that the writers of the show are aware of Adelante.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they wouldn't just make her a descendant of Adelante.
That's weird.
Because, like, in general, a lot of this stuff doesn't track anyway. Because, how could Harry be a descendant of Hercules if all of Hercules' mortal descendants died by his own hand, right?
Right.
Like, Hercules, it's a part of Hercules' legends that he was once driven mad by Hera and murdered his own sons.
Mm.
In his blind fury. So, like, and he didn't have any more kids until he had achieved divinity, become a god, and married a goddess. So, like, it doesn't make any sense. I guess Harry would have to be a descendant of, like, one of Hercules' godly children, but, like, at the same time, it's like, then why wouldn't he be associated with their attributes instead of Hercules?
Yeah.
Because they're not as famous, I know, but still. So, yeah, Atlanta is a descendant of Artemis, and for some reason that gives her super speed.
Okay.
Like, she is shown bow hunting in her introduction in the show.
Right.
But she's not shown using a bow any point after that. Instead, her superpower is super speed. Which I associate more with Hermes.
Yeah.
Than with, one of Hermes' names is literally Quicksilver. So, like,
yeah. Could have named her
I know that Artemis. I'm sorry, what was that?
No, I was just thinking of, like, if a descendant of Hermes could be like Hermione, or that's just in 2 seconds. Like,
right, and that's like way more appropriate.
Yeah.
Mythologically
based
speaking,
on the power.
Hermes absolutely boned down on some ladies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so, and Hermes is even a character in the show. He's the one who collected them all. He's the one who got everybody together and said, "You guys are all descendants of Greek mythological figures. Come to this special school where we'll teach you to use your powers and fight monsters." Like, Hermes came riding on a griffin. It was like, "You guys are superheroes. Let's get to work."
He said, "I'm forming a team. It's the Avengers initiative. I mean, Class of the Titans initiative."
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, Atlanta, I like her. She's a cool character. She's exactly the kind of character that I like. I guess, I gravitate towards speedsters. The Flash is my favorite Justice League member. So, like, that, plus Artemis is my favorite Greek goddess. So it's, everything about her is constructed for me to like her.
Mercari had the best scene in the Eternals.
She did. She really did.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the Quicksilver scenes in the X-Men movies are some of the best in those movies.
Those are the best scenes in those movies. Yeah.
Quicksilver in the Avengers Age of Ultron was pretty decent for as little as he was used.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, Atlanta, I like her as a character. She's fun. And again, everything about her is constructed for me to like her pretty much. So next character, another character I like a lot simply because of the character he's associated with. His name is Odie. Can you guess who he's associated with?
If it's not this, they completely failed on this. I'm guessing Odysseus.
You are correct.
Okay. I just don't know with the names. I'm not sure. I'm just making sure they aren't failing as basic writer 101 of creating these names.
Oh yeah, like as far as the names go, all the characters are spot on with their associations.
Okay.
But yeah, Odie, he's a descendant of Odysseus. He's the smart one. So he's their tech guy. He's the one who problem solves. He's the one where whenever there's an issue, Jay looks at him first and asks, "What are we looking at?" So, which again, like I like Jay as a leader character. He's really well written. So, because so many leader characters in kids cartoons and stuff are written to be like, all right, like I'm gonna try it first, and if I can't, then I'm gonna ask for someone's help. But
Yeah.
I like Jay as a leader because he knows what his team can do, and with every problem that comes up, he knows who he's talking to and what he wants to ask them. Like he knows who can solve what problem and trusts them to do it. So again, like good leader character. I love good leader characters, and Jay's a good leader character.
Nice.
But yeah, but we're talking about Odie right now. Odie, he's awesome. He's, like I said, he's the tech guy. He's the smart guy. He's based on Odysseus, who is another one of my favorite characters from Greek mythology and like classical Greek stuff. One of my favorite stories isn't even the entire Odyssey. Just the part of the Odyssey when Odysseus outsmarts Polyphemus the Cyclops is just one of my favorite anecdotes from the entire Greek canon. So, like, because the whole, like, I am no man thing. That's just, I like that. I don't know why I like that. I do. Like, I love trickster characters. That's why Loki is another one of my favorites from, like, world mythology. So, and Odysseus, as just a very smart guy, is definitely one of the better trickster characters from mythology. So, Odie, fun character. I like him. He's cool. All right, next up is Archie. This one's going to be a little bit harder. All the names from this point are a good deal harder to guess.
Does this have to deal with archery at all, or no?
No.
Okay, because I was going to say Artemis.
No, because we already have Atlanta for Artemis.
Yeah. Who else starts with A?
Would you like a hint?
I'm going to guess one.
Okay.
Maybe it's right. It's the only other one I can think with an A. Achilles.
That is correct.
I don't like that. I don't like Archie being the name.
I mean, what else do they call him? Ack?
I don't know. I I know it deals more with like the actual proficiency of Artemis, but I'd rather like that correlation. Like the descendant of Artemis is named Archie. Like I like that more than the descendant of Achilles is Archie. I don't know.
Yeah, they were working with what they had.
Yeah.
So yeah, Archie's a cool character. He's definitely he's the close, like, it's very interesting because a lot of these characters do not like play to type when it comes to mid 2000s action cartoon characters.
Yeah.
Archie is the closest thing to a hothead character that this show has, but he's not like a hothead character. He's just like a man of action type of character where he will act before he thinks. And he he kind of has to be very lightly held back by the others in the group. Like, hang on a minute, let's think this through before we jump in. Which is, that's an interesting way to interpret, a descendant of Achilles, because Achilles was definitely known for his wrath. Achilles was definitely a hothead. Achilles is probably one of the angriest characters in the Iliad. The entire Iliad is Achilles being mad that his boyfriend is dead. So Archie's an interesting character, and it leads you to wonder, like, what's the, like, skill wise, what's the distinction between Archie and Jay? Because both of them are very much just like the heroes you're based on were good fighters.
Right.
I think they do well to distinguish the two of them. That, like, in terms of raw skill, Archie is the only, like, not outright powered character on the team who matches Jay. As far as like the other guys in the group go, there's another girl in the group who matches him too. But yeah, like for Archie, I would say like the major distinguishing feature is that like he's better at just straight up fighting, which is very much in line with Achilles. Whereas Jay is, again, he's the leader for a reason.
Yeah.
So next up, this character, and again, these are harder from this point. This character is named Teresa.
Teresa. Does the name start with a T?
It does.
Teresa.
Let me know when you need any hints.
I'm just gonna keep going with hold on. Is Teresa, is it spelled T-E or T-H?
T-H.
T-H.
You're on the right track.
Oh, I'm blanking on I know the guy's name starts with a T-H. I can't remember his name. The guy that was with the Minotaur.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name though.
There's a very famous question about his boat and how many planks he can remove. The ship
I don't remember that at all.
It's in WandaVision. The ship of.
I don't remember anything of WandaVision.
Okay.
It was good at the time, but I forgot almost everything about that show.
Oh yeah. She's a descendant of Theseus.
Oh, okay. Oh, Theseus.
But yeah,
I should have just I should have just been like and then the classic into any Greek sounding name, Theseus.
Yes.
Theseus.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like you had like all of your facts right about him though. Like, yes, Theseus was the guy who fought the Minotaur.
I couldn't remember the name. Like I remember TH. That's all I could remember.
Yeah. So yeah, Teresa, she's similar to Archie, generically good at fighting, but also mildly psychic.
Okay.
I don't remember enough of Theseus's legend to know how relevant that is to him. But at this point, like most of the other stuff in the show is spot on enough that I trust that the writers did some deep diving into Greek mythology to find interesting things for these characters to do. Like Artemis, she is more than just a hunter. She's athletic, so super speed for her descendant isn't completely bonkers.
Right.
But then again, most Greek figures were highly athletic characters because the Greeks really, really loved their sports. All right, last one. This is going to be the hardest name to guess and the hardest one to understand why he's even freaking here.
Okay.
Excuse me. His name is Neil.
Neil. I'm trying to think of a character, a Greek god or goddess that starts with an N.
And again, most of these aren't gods. A lot of these are heroes or
Greek characters, I should say.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single one that starts with an N.
All right. Do you need hints?
Sure.
He likes himself way too much.
Oh, that's
there's a mental disorder named after.
Yeah, that's where forgot.
I believe
I forgot exactly what his name is, but I know like something. Isn't it really close to narcissist or narcissist or something?
Basically, just take the T off the end.
Okay.
Yeah, narcissist.
Wait, so Neil, it's narcissist.
Yep.
What's the meaning behind Neil?
Neil, well, it starts with an N.
That's it?
That's it. That's probably it. That's the best I got.
Hold on, I want to look up. Are there any other Greek characters that start with an N?
I don't know.
Because I could not think of one at all when I
feel
was
like
trying
it's
to
kind
think
of
of one.
rare for Greek characters to have names that start with N. Because I can't think of any
Yeah.
other than Narcissus myself.
Yeah.
There's well, this one doesn't really count. There's one who starts with an N sound named Nemesine, but her name starts with an M, a silent M. Oh, Nemesis is the goddess of vengeance.
I didn't even know that was a Greek god or goddess.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a decent bit. Most of these I've never heard of. Okay. So Neil, the only reason is because N?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
And it might also be a pun on like the fact that Narcissus' fate was sealed when he kneeled down by a pond and saw his reflection.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
the
that's
way
what
that
they were thinking, which I'm
the way
assuming
that
they were.
Narcissus died was because Narcissus was a very beautiful man. Like men and women from all around were like all over him. Everybody loved him. And the thing is, in his story, in one of the more prominent versions of his story, there were at least two people who took their own lives because he rejected them. One man and one woman. Because he was like, I'm too pretty for you. And so they killed themselves. So Aphrodite took notice of him. I believe it was Aphrodite. And she felt that Narcissus was getting a little too big for his britches. Because, inevitably this gets to the point where, like, Narcissus is like, I'm prettier than Aphrodite herself, and she doesn't she doesn't like it when people say stuff like that. So she's like, fine, you think you're so pretty? So she curses him that the next time he sees his own reflection, he'll be so madly in love with it that he can't tear his eyes away. So that's what happens. He sees his reflection in a pond and then just kneels down by the pond staring at himself until he withers away.
Okay.
Yeah. And he just like basically just starves to death staring at himself. That's the version of Narcissus that I mostly know. There are obviously, as with most mythological stories, there are like a million versions.
Right.
But yeah, so in this show, for some reason, Narcissus is ranked alongside like actual hero characters, and his descendant is apparently worthy of being one of the 7 in this little Justice League of Greek mythology people. And I cannot for the life of me tell you what he does for the team. So here's the thing. He's introduced in the 3rd episode when all hope seems lost that they're going to be able to stop Cronus's initial plan. But then when they meet Narcissus, something about their interaction gives Odie an idea, because it involves reflecting sunlight, and I'm not going to go super deep into the whole plot of the first 3 episodes. It involves reflecting sunlight, and he gets this idea because he notices Neil's pocket mirror that he keeps so that he can stare at himself. And that and sure, that works for the plot of those first 3 episodes. And I feel like the writers just wanted a curveball character to round out the 7 and not go with someone obvious. But at the same time, you get to episode 4 and he's just there. Neil doesn't really, he really feels like a character who's okay, he was our kind of twist plot device character for our initial 3 episode arc. And we're committed to this being a team of 7 characters. But now I feel now that they've gotten into the monster of the week stuff, it's what does just a really pretty boy contribute to that?
Well, you said you're 4 episodes in?
Yeah.
Maybe in future episodes he plays a lot greater factor in.
I'm hoping so. Otherwise, he's just kind of a wasted slot on the roster.
Yeah.
Because like the thing is, like, he's pretty and he's lucky. Those are like the two traits that are defining him.
Okay.
But the thing is, Narcissus wasn't lucky. He, like, if anything, he was unlucky. He got Aphrodite's attention and she didn't like him. And the thing is, in this interpretation of the show, Aphrodite does like him because he's pretty, right?
Right.
But like mythologically speaking, like most traditional interpretations of Aphrodite really don't like it when other people approach her level of beauty, because she's like, she feels threatened by that.
Right.
Like, Aphrodite doesn't like the thought that anyone else could surpass her in beauty, so she usually tries to sabotage those people. But in this show, she's like, "Oh yeah, Neil, like, I'll be his mentor, and like he'll be my student." Because each of them has like a god mentor, basically.
Okay.
Like for Archie, it's Ares. For Harry, he gets to mentor with Hercules directly.
Okay.
And like it's same for Atlanta with Artemis. For Jay, I don't know that Jay has a specific mentor. He seems to answer directly to Hera mostly in this show. So that's kind of interesting. And like Odie hangs out with Hermes and Hephaestus most of the time. So it's interesting the way that like each character has their own like specific mentors. Plus Chiron is just generally there when they need him too. So that's the centaur guy.
Oh, okay.
Chiron is the centaur who mentored Achilles in the myths.
Okay.
So yeah, he hangs around the school, and yeah, it's an interesting show. I'm digging it. In the first 3 episodes, as I said before, Cronus was like the main villain. He had a bunch of like kind of generic like giants as his minions, and then as his big trump card monster, he enlisted the help of what they call the Typhus, which I believe is one of Typhon's alternate names. Typhon is a major monster from Greek mythology who could only be stopped when Zeus beat him back with lightning bolts and then dropped a mountain on him.
Nice.
Yeah. I do believe Typhon's name is where we get the word for typhoon.
Okay.
Because he's a monster that is so horrendously powerful, he's like a natural disaster.
Right.
So it makes sense that we would name natural disasters after him. But yeah. And so yeah, that's interesting. And then in episode 4, the antagonist of the episode was, well, technically Cronus still, but this is one of those shows where it's like, it was Cronus the whole time. But like he shows up for like the last 5 minutes to be like, yes, I did all this.
Oh, okay.
Like it's that sort of thing where like he everything is secretly his plan, but also it's a monster of the week. So the monster for this week, for episode 4, is Cerberus. He got out of the underworld because apparently Cronus freed him. And being on Earth starts driving like all the dogs on the planet crazy. Like Cerberus's just presence on Earth just makes every dog go feral.
Right.
So the heroes have to stop him before dogs all over the planet turn on their masters. And the way they have to stop him is by holding him off long enough for a couple of the members of the team to sneak into the underworld, so that they can get to what's his name? I can't believe I've totally forgotten this character's name. There's a famous character who once calmed Cerberus by playing a lyre. And now for some reason I've blanked on that character's name. Anyway, they had to go to the underworld to get his lyre because Teresa knows how to play the lyre. And this guy's lyre is apparently enchanted so that it can calm monsters like Cerberus. So they get the lyre, and the way they're able to get to the underworld is because Persephone is one of their teachers, and she needs to have access to the underworld. So like, they basically sneak in her chambers when she's gone to the underworld, and like sneak in through her passageway, and they find Persephone's grove where she just has a bag of gold coins hanging on a tree, and so that, you know, because the thing is, if you're not supposed to be in the underworld, you gotta bribe Charon, the ferryman, to get there.
Right.
But the thing is, you don't give him the whole bag right away, because if you give Charon the whole payment right away, he's got no motivation to take you back.
Right.
Which is interesting because the show plays into that a little bit. Teresa gives Charon a couple of coins, and he reaches for the rest of the bag, and she's like, you get the rest on the way home.
Okay.
I was like, that's interesting. So like, again, like this show has it's interesting what details they pay attention to in terms of like the mythological accuracy, while still obviously keeping it kid friendly.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching more episodes of this. It's really interesting. Okay, it's really bothering me that I don't remember that character's name because I just heard it last night. I should remember it.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I remember his wife's name.
Or
so husband, Orpheus.
Oh, okay.
Orpheus is the one who played the lyre. And his wife is Eurydice. I could remember Eurydice, but I had to Google her to find his name. Yeah, she because the thing is, the reason that Orpheus had to get past Cerberus to get into the underworld was because Eurydice died and Orpheus wanted to get her out.
Oh, okay.
And I believe this is one of those instances where Orpheus played the lyre, calmed Cerberus so that he could get in. And when he found Eurydice, Hades caught him, and Hades basically gave him the condition. And this happens a couple of times in Greek mythology. But Hades gave him the condition, you can have her. But the thing is, like, as you're walking out of here, you cannot look back. If either of you look back, she stays.
Oh, okay.
Basically, you know, Lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and I think Orpheus is one of the only characters who was successful in that. Usually, when someone tries to free someone from the underworld, they make the mistake of looking back, even just a small glance, and they fail. But I think Orpheus and Eurydice, if I'm remembering the story correctly, were one of the rare successes in escaping the underworld.
Okay.
The only other characters to successfully get someone out of the underworld is Hercules. So yeah, I don't know. I gotta recommit to doing some Greek mythology research because this show like put the Greek mythology bug back in me. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been studying Norse mythology for the past few years pretty intensely, but I'm feeling like getting back into the Greek stuff again because it's so interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a good show. It's from kind of that golden age of kids action cartoons, you know, like the mid 2000s. It's kind of was kind of like that peak period. You had Teen Titans,
where you could have like action cartoon that wasn't action comedy.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it trusted, like back when cartoons trusted kids to follow what was happening without having to tell a joke every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like Teen Titans, which I know is pretty comedy heavy, but like still Teen Titans.
It has some like deep and it has some deep and dark moments.
Yeah, Teen Titans knew when to pull back on that sort of thing. So like you had Teen
Yeah.
Titans, you had Ben 10. You know, it was just a great time for action cartoons. Like back in 2002, you had that He-Man reboot. At the tail end of it in like 2011, there was a Thundercats reboot that was pretty good.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's just this big. I mean, sure, like this was also the time when like a ton of action cartoons would pop up and then get canceled, like Megas XLR or Symbionic Titan, which is always unfortunate. But still, like you also had a lot of them that like got to have a good run, like this Class of the Titans one, which I never heard of until like this year, just looking on Amazon Prime for something weird to watch.
Yeah, I've never heard of this till today.
Yeah, so I'm digging it. It's good. It's fun. But yeah, those were the two cartoons. I had a lot more to say about Class of the Titans than I did the Deer anime, but yeah, it's and there are other cartoons that I have on this list that I've been meaning to get around to. Like I watched the first episode of Stormhawks a while ago, which it's been such a long time since I watched Stormhawks. But that's another great one. That's from that same era. Excuse me. I think it's also Canadian. I think Stormhawks is also Canadian. And that's another thing too. It was kind of like a golden age for Canadian cartoons at that time. Like we had so many Canadian cartoons on Cartoon Network back in the day. You know what I mean?
I don't know if I remember this one. Yeah, I'm just looking at Stormhawks right now.
Yeah, Stormhawks is awesome. You should give it a watch if you ever have the opportunity. But yeah, like why don't we get as many shows from Canada anymore?
True.
Like Canada had some good. I think Chaotic was another Canadian one, if I'm remembering correctly. I might be wrong about that one.
Yeah, I'm looking at Canada animated shows to see if there were big things. You had already mentioned like some like Total Drama Island and stuff like that.
Yeah. 16.
Yeah, 16. Yeah, there's a decent bit. It's like South Park Canadian. What? This I hate Google AI. Anytime you try to Google something, it's the first thing that pops up is Google AI tries to give you a list, and I hate it so much.
Yeah, it's
yeah, I don't even know. I guess Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood is Canadian. My sister watched it as a kid. I don't know.
Daniel.
There's some stuff.
Neighborhood.
It's like a little kid show. Caillou, apparently, I don't know.
Caillou's Canadian?
And apparently the Backyardigans.
Okay, I can believe that.
Arthur's Canadian? Hold on.
No way.
Is Arthur show Canadian? What? First thing that popped up is some sort of shoe. No, I didn't type shoe. I typed show. I accidentally did type shoe. I meant show, though.
Damn you, keyboard!
Canadian American animated show. Okay,
Canadian American.
Yeah.
We get to have it a little bit.
Yeah,
So I just noticed. So looking at the little poster for Class of the Titans Season 1 on Amazon Prime, only 6 of the characters on it, and it's really conspicuous which one is missing. So I didn't give any physical descriptions because almost all 7 characters are white. Odie is the only black character on the team. And he's the one who's not on the poster.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's a little conspicuous.
That's not good.
That's like when you know what the full cast of the show looks like, that's a little noticeable.
Yeah.
I know he's not like he's the smart guy, right? So like he's not one of the ones fighting and on the front lines, but like still for him to be the omission, omit Neil. Get rid of Neil. Why Narcissus? Why him? It doesn't make sense.
Now I'm falling down the Canadian rabbit hole. Apparently, somehow Infinity Train is Canadian. If Infinity Train is Canadian, then okay, I like Canada.
Yeah. If Infinity Train is Canadian, I'll eat my hat.
I will bow down to Canada if Infinity Train is Canadian. Pledge my allegiance.
I pledge
to
allegiance to Canada.
To Canada.
And to the Republic? For which
To the Canadian
what kind
Republic
of government is
for which
Canada?
it stands. I don't know. One nation under a maple leaf with syrup.
Well,
With
flapjacks
syrup,
and syrup for all.
with syrup and maple bacon for all.